Valorant has blown up to become one of the largest PC games out there at the moment, and there are a lot of players that are downloading the game that have maybe never even owned an FPS game. Valorant is extremely different to many other games on the FPS market, and this allows brand new players to try a new genre of game they have never tried before. It's extremely easy to get a hold of, but one of the hardest games you can master. FPS games tend to have a very competitive skill base, and Valorant is no exception. Before I start this video, if you guys enjoy any of my content, make sure to hit that like and hit subscribe with the notification bell pressed so you can keep up to date with all of my content. I'm on my way to 1,250 subscribers, and it'd be awesome if you could help me get there. I also have a Twitch account if you want to come tune in live. I'll have the link in the description, so you should go give me a follow. Today's video is on 10 essential tips for beginner Valorant players. These are not in order, I just think they're all important. Now, obviously when I say aim at the head, I'm not being sarcastic. Obviously, you need to aim at the head if you want to get headshots, but when I say aim at the head, I've noticed that many players actually play the game with their crosshair placement a lot lower than the head, typically at the feet. I've noticed this with many new players that do not actually play FPS shooters too often, but this is an extremely important tip if you want to have a higher chance of winning simple gunfights. As you can see with my crosshair placement, when I'm walking around anywhere on the map, I always have my crosshair aimed exactly where an enemy's head would be if they were to walk around a corner. This allows me to have the upper ground on an enemy, especially if I want to get the first shot headshot. So you should learn how to place your crosshair exactly where the enemy's head would be, so you're always at a higher advantage. If you were to walk around a corner with your crosshair aimed at the feet, you would most likely just shoot at their feet, or you might even take the extra time to move the crosshair to their head, which could get you killed. But on that note, let's move to number 2. Valorant's movement system is very unique. Many shooters such as Call of Duty are very simple based on movement and focus more on the actual aim. If you don't know, in Valorant, if you shoot while you move, your gun will be significantly less accurate than it would be if you were standing still. This applies to any gun in the game. This tip is extremely easy to understand, but if you don't play Valorant on a regular basis, you might forget this simple tip, and it will make a huge difference when you get in a gunfight with other players. One small thing I would recommend is while you're running, if you want to stop and shoot somebody, you should tap the opposite key that you're running with. Let's say you're running straight forward. If you slightly tap the S key to move backward, it will stop your player in its tracks and you will have a much higher accuracy. Not moving while you shoot will always have a higher advantage on the enemy players if you were trying to kill them first. If someone walks around the corner and they start shooting while they're moving, they're going to be a lot less accurate if they peeked around a corner and weren't moving at all. Learning and using the agent you like most in Valorant is extremely important. This all leads down to who you choose as an agent as well. If you like to lurk in the background and help out your team when they need you, and not after you're already dead, then maybe you should choose someone who's a healer and should stay in the shadows, like Sage. This tip is not about who you should choose for your agent, but how you should play your agent. Choosing the right agent is very important in this game, and if you choose the right one and you don't use it the right way, it will lead your team losing a lot more often than usual. I'm going to use Sage again for example. If you really like to play Sage but you often run out into the open trying to entry frag and you die, your team lost a very important player on their team. Sage is a healer who should support their team with their pushes and stay in the back. You should find someone who you enjoy playing and who fits your playstyle as a player. This tip is very simple. Valorant is a very easy game to get tilted over, especially if you're really into the ranked aspect of the game. Everybody falls victim to this one, including me. If you become tilted to the game, you should simply just take a break, take a walk, eat some lunch if you haven't, or even maybe just play a different game for a tiny bit. If you become angry with the game, your aim is going to suffer, your mentality will suffer, and you will simply be worse at the game. This one is very important if you are taking the game more serious in competitive ranks. I'm sure you have heard, if you're tilted, you're going to be worse at the game, and this one snowballs a lot. So just take a break, you guys, even if it's 15 minutes. Getting your head off the game will improve your mentality a bunch. Learning spray patterns for guns is not an easy task in most games. There are a lot of variables that go into learning spray patterns, but once you start to play the competitive scene in Valorant, I'm sure by now you have a favorite gun. My favorite gun is the Vandal, which is basically a rip-off version of the AK. Either way, once you figure out your favorite gun, you should begin to learn how your gun acts. Learning a spray pattern will give you such a high advantage over the enemy player if they don't know their spray pattern. It's simple. If you could hit more bullets than the other players, it will do more damage then. Pairing this tip up with the first tip, which is aiming at the head, will lead you to be an extremely deadly player, although it all comes down to lots and lots of practice. Learning map callouts should be one of the easier tips on this list to understand. I'm sure after about 20 games in Valorant, you have learned the actual map. At this point, you think you're in a good position to play. Although if you really want to improve yourself and maybe your entire team, you should learn how to make good callouts. Learning what each location is in each map is very important to help your team win. For example, if you die to an enemy player on the team and you want to use a callout, using a callout will actually help your teammates find out exactly where the enemy player is or they might go to on the map.
Good shit, boys.
Checking your minimap is something you might overlook while playing Valorant, although there is a bunch of valuable information that you could find on your minimap. Of course, you could see exactly where all of your teammates are located, but especially when you're on the defender side, it's good to figure out when to rotate. If you're on the attacker side, this tip is useful to find out possibly how many defenders there is on each side. If you pay good attention to the minimap, you can see exactly where enemy players are, no matter how far you are from them. If an enemy player is spotted by a teammate, they will appear on the map for a short amount of time. If an enemy player shoots, they will show up too. Like I was saying, if you find out exactly where the enemies are on the minimap, you could find out exactly when to rotate, maybe when not to rotate because you only see a certain amount of players. It's just very valuable information that you should keep in mind while playing Valorant. Learning from your mistakes are extremely important. You hear this all the time in pretty much any game you can ever play, including in real life. This comes naturally as a human. If you make a mistake while playing and you analyze what you have done wrong, you can know for next time not to do it again. This is important in Valorant since there are so many variables that could take place in the game. Learning from your strengths is also something that you might not think of, but is very important. If you did something very well and you want to do it again, analyze what you did and try to repeat the same thing. Obviously, it may be difficult in some cases, but think about the good things you have done, and this typically improves your mood too, which in turn improves your gameplay as well. Changing your sensitivity might be something you do very often, but this is a huge mistake. You might think it's a good idea if you want to turn faster or maybe turn slower for more accuracy, but this messes everything up for you. It is more beneficial to you to stick to one sensitivity for a long time and get extremely used to it than it is to change it like a variable in certain situations. Simply find a sensitivity that feels extremely good to play for you and get used to it. It is much better to get good at one sensitivity than it is to change them. You should also try to get a similar sensitivity for every game you play. For example, I play a bunch of different games, Tarkov, Rust. This game are my 3 big games that I play all the time, but in each game, I have a very similar sensitivity, so when I try to play another game, it doesn't feel off or feel too fast or feel too slow. So just try to get used to one sensitivity and keep it there. Learning the economy of the game is something you could do very early on in the game to benefit you for the rest of your time you ever play this game. This game is extremely based on economy, and taking that to your advantage could mean a lot more wins for your team. You may think this is simple, such as buying when you have money and not buying when you don't have money, but there is a lot more to that. If you learn how to use your money wisely, you can help keep your team armed to the teeth every single time you play. There are many different videos on learning how to use the economy in Valorant, but I'll leave you with a small tip. If your whole team cannot afford to buy, do not full buy. If you are the only person on the team that could have a good weapon and you end up dying with it, the next round your team is going to be armed with good weapons and you're not going to have a gun at all. It's something you need to get used to if you want to be able to have a good weapon each round. It's just like controlling money in real life. If you save more, you're going to have more for the future. Well, I'm glad you guys made it this far into the video. I really enjoy to help you guys get better at games because I like to play with good players, and everybody else loves to play with a good player on their team. Hopefully this will help you guys get out of those lower ranks into the ranks that you guys might even deserve. Valorant is a ruthless game and it's very difficult to other shooter games, but I hope these tips can help you out learning on how to play the game and even ranking up into those higher ranks. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm on my way to 1,250 subscribers, and it would be amazing if you guys could join the party. Make sure to come check out my Twitch account if you want to see some Valorant live. I play Escape from Tarkov there, I play Rust there, a bunch of different stuff. It's always a good time. I love to interact with you guys. So please consider checking out my Twitch and giving me a follow. But I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all in the next video.
Nice. Okay. Fuck.